Hey guys, this is former WCW wrestling star Glacier, and you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Welcome once again to Live and in Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. Man, what are you doing, bro?
What up? I've got Wolfie. I think I've got, let's see here. There's 2 beanies. I've got 3 North Face jackets, 4 Columbia bodysuits. I brought blankets. What am I missing?
Oh, because it's going to be cold. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, it's going to be very cold.
Yeah, so, it is going to be cold because we got Glacier today. It's going to be a really awesome interview. I can't wait for this one. Have you watched the Unbreakable Bunch?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm a fan. You know, okay, look, here's the deal. Is it Gone with the Wind? Maybe better because I actually don't really even care about Gone with the Wind, but you know what I'm saying. Right, exactly. Well, you're not missing much. I mean, it's old. And, I mean, it's a classic movie. Let's not get into that. You know what I'm saying. But
I'm not into old movies for whatever reason.
From what I gathered from it was it reminds me of like the Expendables with wrestlers, which I love that. Like that's that's all I needed, you know. Yeah. So yeah.
And it did need more Gangrel, but I'll address that later.
Okay.
With Ray when we get him on here. What a wild week, man. We got planes falling out of the sky everywhere, man. What's going on?
I know, man. Are you flying anywhere soon?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't like flying anyway. I'm scared of heights and I hate flying, and I'd rather drive, man. If it's within 10 to 12 hours, I'm driving.
Yeah, that's my dad too. My dad is old, so he's never flown. But yeah, I mean, you're a road dog though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, your dad likes to look at things. That's kind of how I am.
Yeah, he does. And also, I think it's the control a bit too. You know, like he's in somewhat control. But you know, I read online that it said like over a very large percentage, over half of the accidents with the airplane happened during landing. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't heard that. But also I have heard that, I mean, percentage-wise, it's safer to travel in the air. But again, like you said with your dad, it's a control thing for me.
Yeah.
And I've been in around 10 car accidents, and only, I think, 1 or 2 was I driving. So, yeah. I won't sleep on you either, man. That's another thing I learned. I will not go to sleep if you're driving. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah. I mean, Dale Earnhardt, I'm not letting you.
Yeah. Not doing it, man.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man. So one funny thing I got to tell you about Wolfie, and I sent you the link, but I would love to hear your thoughts on Jamie Dundee singing the Blue Cyclone, if you don't mind.
Well, my wife went out of town about a year or so back, left me at home by myself to batch. After 5 straight nights of TV, I was ready to scream. So I called up the beer, drunk a buddy of mine. I said, Ronnie, I ain't having a real good time. He said, why don't we go to the wrestling matches and let off a little steam? Well, I never seen the matches before. When we reached that arena door, the crowd was already backed up plumb out in the street. Yeah, they pushing and shoving like cattle, just getting in line. It was a hell of a battle. We had to fight like the devil, but we finally got ringside seats.
Well, I mean, yeah, he sung it to me before, and he's the one that introduced me to that song.
I bet he did.
We listened to it. We listened to it up and down the road forever, and like I said, he's the one that introduced me to it, and I love that song. It's awesome. His rendition that you played or whatever was okay. It was all right. But I've heard it live. Man. I've heard it live.
Well, we know Jamie's rhythm isn't
what you would say is the best. And he's a double time guy. So what I had to do, so like, let's just say this. I have done this similar method with you and it was fine. You did like 2 takes and it was done. With Jamie, I just let him record it and I chopped it up and put it to the music because I knew if we were going to try to do what you and I did, it wasn't going to work. So.
Right. So, and hey, did you see the thing that went viral with Joey Janela and Dylan Bostic? Did you see that?
Yes, the video you sent me, actually. I hadn't seen it until you sent it to me. And
that was wild.
That was a shoot?
Yes. So Flash Flanagan talked to Dylan, and I actually contacted Joey, and from both of them, it's a shoot. It's something that happened 4 years ago on Twitter. Evidently, Joey said something on Twitter 4 years ago, and who knows, a 4-year grudge just popped up. But I guess it went viral, and I mean that's how I saw it. A fight there, and people were jumping in, and all kinds of weird shit. But anyway, yeah. And I talked to Joey. I was like, "Would you like to come on the show and talk about it?" I said, "I have no shame." And he's like, "No, man, but yeah, I'd like to come on your show. Maybe during Mania weekend. I'm not really sure why he wanted to do it then, but anyway, so that might be another thing."
So Janela would be incredible, first of all, man, because that would be,
the foot on fire thing. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about this past thing. There's a lot we need to talk about with him.
Yeah, it'd be a good show. Go ahead and book that one, man, for sure. So
all right.
Yeah. But dude, as soon as we get out from under our buddy Captain's Corner, man, brother, I don't know if he's just an official part of the team, now.
Yeah, he's the booker, man.
I know. I love it. We've been waiting for a booker, haven't we? Like, seriously.
Yeah, because I got tired of the book. I tried to give it to you a couple times, and you took it for a minute. But yeah, Nick's a good booker. And so Nick's got us our upcoming guest, Glacier. This is going to be cool because we almost had him before because of Kahagas was trying to get him on here. And then Glacier was like, "Hang on, I'm doing this movie. I'd like to come on there and plug it." So now the movie's out, Unbreakable Bunch, and we're going to talk about that. And we're also just going to talk about Glacier.
Yeah, let's do it then. I like it.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. We'll be right back with Glacier after these messages.
I just MailChimped my marketing.
You MailChimped your what?
I MailChimped my marketing with AI to create an effective marketing campaign in minutes.
No, MailChimp and Way.
Yes, MailChimp and Way. Now I can hyper-personalize my campaigns across email and SMS.
You can do all that with MailChimp?
What did I just MailChimp and say?
MailChimp your marketing with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-ons. Visit MailChimp.com.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Hey folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, folks, we are back on Live and in Color with Wolfie D. And today's guest, man, this is pretty cool for me because I was actually a big mark for this gimmick, even though I was in the business. I was like, that's fucking cool, man. That's something I want to do some shit like that. But so I'm introducing today my man Ray, also known as Glacier. What's going on?
Hey, Wolfie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Dude, did it just get cold in here or what?
I'm freezing my balls off, man.
I'm going to put a space heater in here or something.
Man, right off the bat, though, now that you say that, Jimmy, it brings me to the point that I read, Ray, the outfit alone, the first outfit cost $35,000. Is that right?
Yeah, you know what? I always try to kind of explain that when I tell people that is the way that happened was because obviously, for most wrestlers, I mean, you basically get your own gear made and things like that,
Right.
And so when this whole Blood Runs Cold concept came to pass, and Eric Bischoff was overseeing it, one of the main things, it was breaking new ground because they wanted to do something that was more high end as far as the look and the gear and something that just had really never been done before. So just by chance, I had when I was living in Atlanta, I'd started doing some acting outside of wrestling, and I happened to know a gentleman who's still a great friend, Andre Friedez. He was a really good special effects makeup artist for the TV and film industry, and he had his own studio called AFX Studios. Long story short, I introduced him to Eric. They made a deal for AFX Studios to actually do all of for Glacier, for Mortis, for Ernest, for Wrath. So so Glacier was the first one. So it did run. I did see the invoice for what he billed WCW, but that was basically from drawing board to finished product, which there was a lot of work that he did. Professional work to get that thing to look that way. Yeah, but I'm glad WCW was willing to pick up that tab, though.
Yeah, for sure, right? So whose idea was the gimmick?
You know what? The way that it's always been explained to me from in the very beginning, from with Eric, was that obviously, wrestling, always is typically smart enough to play off what's popular in society at that time. And of course, Mortal Kombat had, the video game was a huge success. The movie had just come out, and so and actually TNT, which is part of Returner, they were. I don't know if it had started yet, but for a while there was a TV series that was on TNT, the Mortal Kombat TV series.
Yes, so I remember that.
I know that, from what I understood is the powers that be at Turner, along with, the Mortal Kombat series, basically, they were like, hey, can we bring this idea into the wrestling ring? And then they were using several wrestlers were on some of the episodes of the TV show. So I was always, that's how it was always presented to me, that there were these two worlds that were pretty close, to working together anyway. So why not, can we pull this off in the wrestling ring? And so I was the first guinea pig.
So in like 94, man, to kill time, I drew up these, I called them the cyberpunks, right? And one's name was Fire, one was named Ice. And I drew up these outfits, and I had them made down there with really not much intention of using them. But then in like 90, what was that, 95 or 96 when we did the Cyberpunks?
95. It was late
95. Yeah. So me and Jamie, PG-13, we lose a leave town match to Tommy Rich, Doug Gilbert, and we come back as the Cyberpunks. And the thing that I got, you say Mortal Kombat, but ours kind of reminded people, I guess, of the Power Rangers. And man, I can't tell you how good the gimmicks were, man. Back in the Polaroid days, man, kids were on it, man. It was awesome. I'm sure you had some serious gimmick money coming in from that too, huh?
You know what? And that's what I still love about it, man. I mean, I'm very, very proud, that I'm the one who got to be Glacier, and I'm still proud to be Glacier. I just did an appearance at an event here, was it last weekend? I think that a friend of mine who's big morning talk radio show here, he hosts here. He's a big wrestling fan. He sponsored a wrestling show, and I went out and did an appearance, and it's just I tell you what, I knock on wood, thank the good Lord every day that I can still be relevant after all these years. Which is, it's a really good feeling to still be able to do something we love and make people happy and put smiles on their faces too,
Definitely.
Do you feel like, and this is no disrespect to you at all, but do you feel like, I think the people respect that gimmick more now than they did when you fucking first did it?
It seems like it, yeah.
It does, man.
It seems like it, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, one of the things that Eric and I had, in the early conversations, this is the one thing that Eric was really big on, and Chris Canyon, of course, who was Mortis, and Brian Clark, who was Wrath. I mean, there was one thing that we were really, really, really big on, is that, okay, the presentation will be what it will be, but once the bell rings, from bell to bell, we never, ever, made this, something that was a kooky gimmick or whatever. It was always played very serious once we started wrestling.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be anything funny or hokey or campy or whatever. So I think that was a big part of it, at least for me, is that like over the years, even though I've still done, I still do a lot of up until recently. I just because I'm getting older now. But I was still doing a lot of the independent shows, and that's what I felt like is that still. I could bring the persona to the wrestling fans. They get to do the entrance and all that stuff. But then once we were in the ring, I think that's what's held up over time is we weren't trying to be some kind of comedy act or something like that. We took the wrestling really seriously, and I still do. And I feel like that's part of what's allowed it to grow old gracefully, kind of,
Yeah.
Is that we've respected that it's still wrestling at the end of the day,
Yeah. And two, man, I feel like the fans have the fans of the mid 90s to the fans of now are a lot different and how they look at stuff, I guess. Is another part of it. Something else, man, I looked at, man. And I always like to go back and see what people's athletic backgrounds were. And of course, you have martial arts, and you was a football player, and you've been a football coach. But I noticed shot put and discus was a big thing for you too, right?
Yes, I did that in high school, and it was just one of those things where my high school football coaches. They were really big on playing other sports in the off season, to keep in shape and things like that. And, I never grew up aspiring to do anything track related, but it was one of those things. It was like, okay, well, me and a couple of the other linemen, we all learned how to throw the shot put in the discus, Yeah, it was, and it just kept me, it kept me off the streets in the off season.
Right on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that I noticed that because I'm going to brag on my stepfather for a minute. He's no longer with us, but he held the Tennessee State discus record for like 20 years, man. And it got broken. And I think it was, I want to say the late 80s, mid-late 80s. But, man, he was crushed. Man. I tell you what, I have a great memory we used to have two rival high schools in my hometown of Brunswick, Georgia. It was Brunswick High School and Glenn Academy. Glenn Academy had been around for a long time, and my high school was a newer high school, but it's still been there for a while. And and we had a big city meet every year, big city track meet, and that was kind of your bragging rights, because it was just the two schools. And I remember the guy who I was going up against, who was a football player too, and was really, really good. I think he had placed pretty high, like in the region or state the year before as a junior. So I knew going in, I was like, man, I'm certainly the underdog here. And I ended up winning. But I always tell people, like, there's a reason why I ended up winning. That was because the guy from Glenn, who was my rival, he scratched all three throws.
Oh, man.
Which for people who don't follow track, when you scratch, that means basically you step over the line. You get the ball out, your throw doesn't count, So I still got that blue ribbon though, which is pretty cool. So even though it's kind of by default.
That's pretty cool. So growing up, lifelong wrestling fan? Yes? No?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just I work now as a coach for AEW, and we were just taping TV in Jacksonville Saturday night, and that's where I grew up watching. My first big experience with wrestling was Jacksonville Coliseum, watching championship wrestling from Florida, and it was really cool to be back in Jacksonville to be kind of around that aura that the old Coliseum used to really give. And but yeah, I grew up a lifelong wrestling fan. Never really thought. As I got older, I would get into wrestling, for real. And then eventually I met a gentleman, a great friend of mine to this day, Rick Allen, who was from Jacksonville. He had been a great high school wrestler. He'd gotten into wrestling through championship wrestling from Florida. And as I got to know him, because one of my teammates at Valdosta State University, where I played ball, was a good buddy of Rick's. They from high school, so we all were hanging out together. They actually started shooting a little wrestling TV show in our little local TV station at Valdosta. So we'd go there and watch wrestling, act like idiots in the crowd, and then just as I got closer to graduation, the conversation kind of went towards, hey, would you like to do this? Maybe train to do this and see if you try your hand at it. See if it's something you think you might want to do. And at first I was like, heck no, man, I'm not tough enough to do that. Because, I grew up in that Eddie Graham era of, like those guys, everybody was tough and you didn't dare say, question whether wrestling was real or not.
Right.
And there weren't wrestling schools around. Like the only way to really, become a part of it was to really get invited in, and not a lot of people got invited in. So I was very fortunate. I really was.
Yeah. Who were some of your favorite wrestlers when you were younger? Who inspired you?
Well, I always say, man, my two heroes growing up were Evel Knievel and Dusty Rhodes.
Nice.
And so Dusty to me was always just a larger than life figure. He was someone to me that was like just like I said, he was someone to me who almost wasn't real. And I remember the first time seeing him in the Jacksonville Coliseum, it was a very surreal moment because he was he just oozed charisma, and and I have a twin brother, and so of course we both loved wrestling together. So we would always imagine that we were actually Jack and Jerry Briscoe, the NWA World Tag Team Champs, coming up, which is pretty cool. But and as I got a little bit older, Steamboat was someone I really enjoyed watching. I always loved watching Terry Funk, no matter which side he was on, whether he was the good guy or the bad guy. He was just so entertaining, man. So just like guys are the ones that I really gravitated to.
That's cool.
Oh, man. Wow. I was looking through your history and just doing a little research on you, man. I can't figure out a place to start. So I know that you trained some initially with Fred Avery, but I really want to hear this because anytime I can talk about these two gentlemen, I'm happy, especially knowing what you ended up wearing somewhat of a mask, even though you didn't wrestle in it the whole time. But you also spent some time training with Wrestling 2, Johnny Walker and Bullet Bob, right?
Yeah, well, I always have to kind of clarify that.
Okay.
So how I got Fred Avery, who was a great journeyman wrestler.
I
met Fred through Rick Allen, and who I mentioned earlier, and Fred mainly trained me and trained my one of my best buddies from my football team named R.D. Swain. We played side by side in college, so we kind of broke in as a tag team, which was pretty unique, But we were very fortunate in that Ben Masters, who was a great young promoter, he had P-State Wrestling back in the day, and Ben's still a great friend. He ran just these unbelievably great shows where he brought in talent like, as you said earlier, Wolfie, Tommy Rich was always there, Ted Oates, but Bullet and Two were there as well. And here we were, these young kids right out of college, I was very intimidated by wrestling when I first got into it because I'm just one of these guys, like, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to make myself look bad, which is going to make the industry look bad, and I worked so hard to build a good foundation and not embarrass myself out there. But Ted, Bob and Two were on almost all of Ben's shows, P-State Wrestling shows. So even though they didn't handle any of my initial training as far as the building that foundation, of learning everything in the beginning, as soon as we started working, we worked there a lot because Ben ran a lot of shows. They were very, very helpful in being just those positive role models, and they would take the time to watch our matches. They would give us the feedback, and then we would actually ride with them some from town to town, and of course that's the experience that's almost dead now, which is really sad. But so much just riding in the cars with them and talking and buying them lunch, or dinner after the show, and just soaking up what you could from them, and they were very gracious as far as giving great advice and critique and just being there, just being a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. And, I look back on that, guys, and I knew I was lucky back then, but the older I get, I realized why I really was. Just, we were very, very fortunate to have those people in our careers at that early stage that they really helped us shorten the curve, so to speak.
No doubt.
Man, I always say this, man, and it's terrible, but like the Memphis, because that's where I came up was Memphis, man, not grow up, but that's my territory, right? So, man, the Memphis vibe, everybody would knock you. Nobody nobody would say your match was good. You come back from the ring, I don't care if you tore the house down, it'd be like, oh, that was the shit, and even in the car, if you wanted to fucking learn in the car, you were a mark. It's like, I don't want to talk about wrestling. Oh, God, we'll talk about that when we get there, you know? It's like, geez. Yeah, man, the Memphis mentality was weird. So, but yeah, later on in my career, there were people that helped me, but damn sure wasn't there.
Yeah, and like I said, and as we branched, you know, we were made aware of that. So we really did realize how fortunate we were. I mean, one of the great things that Ted Oates would do for us is, you know, we were wrestling a lot in Cordele, Georgia, and that was only about an hour or so away from Valdosta, where we were still living. And so we, you know, Ben would be like, "Hey, I'll get the ring. You know, I'll have the ring all day long." And typically we ran, you know, high school gyms or National Guard armies, whatever. And he would just set the ring up. He'd have the ring guy set it up that morning. And so we'd go up, and Ted would just, and of course, if two was there, and if Bullet had gotten early, and we'd just train in the ring, you know, pretty much all afternoon until they got ready to open the doors. And just, you know, not going hard, obviously, on a lot of stuff, but just learning a lot of finer points, asking questions, them giving us input, and, you know, saying, yeah, that looks good. That looks like crap. Don't do that. You know?
Right.
But yeah, it was. I'd say we were very, very fortunate. And Tommy Rich, Tommy helped me an awful lot early on in my career.
Tommy ribbed me an awful lot in my career.
Yeah, well, he did us too. You know, that comes with the you know, being able to learn a little bit. You gotta put up with that, because that's Tommy.
Yeah, I traveled a many a mile with Tommy, man. I got good memories. Some I can share, some I can't. So there's a person who we kind of have in common, Vandenberg, who also is known as Father James Mitchell. When I was with him in TNA,
absolutely.
I actually just talked to him last night for the first time in a while. But so what's your thoughts on him, man?
Well, one, I just absolutely love him. He's been a great, great friend for going on 30 years now, you know, and I just absolutely love the guy. You know, he is, I feel there's certain people I've met along the way that I really feel like that they were put on this earth to, you know, somehow eventually get in the wrestling business. And I feel like he was one of those people.
Yeah, man.
I just watch him, you know, when he, I tell anybody who's wanting to learn more about promos, I just tell them to watch a lot of his promos, because, and this is the honest truth. Like, in all the years I've known him, I've never, not once have I ever seen him, you know, flub a promo. I've seen them ask him to do it again for like that, maybe add something in or whatever. I've never seen him, you know, when the light goes on, boy, he is top notch, man. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't stumble over his words, and what he says, he makes very believable. It sounds very believable and authentic, which, if you can get that, you know, then you can hook the audience, you know, and he does.
Yeah, and it's intelligent talk too. It's not like it's just garbage coming out of his mouth. It's very smart, very smart.
Yeah, he always sounds, every time he speaks, he sounds, everything he says, it sounds very well calculated the way he says it, you know, and I think some of that is, and then just knowing him, I know a lot of that is it's just he's spatting it out as it pops into his head. You know?
No kidding.
But he's very good at it.
I really enjoyed my time with him, man. Him, Brian Lee. That was a really good faction, man. We had it together. I thought.
That's awesome. Man.
So you're now with AEW, and so the other night y'all were in Knoxville, and I called up a favor to Jerry Lynn for my son, his mother, and her boyfriend, and her kids, and everything. They had a great time. But so, what do you feel about AEW? And I know you're not going to knock it, and I'm not asking you to. But where do you think they could improve? Maybe.
Well, you know, I mean, here's my take on that. Is that one, you know, as we all know, you know, anytime there's more opportunity for all of us to work, that's a good thing, you know. And I will say, I mean, you know, I working with Tony directly, he's, and this is saying a lot because I've been in the business now almost 40 years. I don't think I've ever met anyone seriously who's as passionate about wrestling day in and day out as he is. I mean, this guy truly loves professional wrestling at a level that I've rarely seen. And so, you know, my thing is that, you know, the company being that it's still relatively young, there's going to be there's just growing pains with it.
Right.
I know they're trying really hard. They've brought in a lot of people as far as some creative wise and some more world class talent. So I feel like it's and you know how wrestling goes. Wrestling is always, I think, kind of in kind of peaks and valleys at times.
Oh, of course.
But I tell you what, there's a lot of really, really great talent there. A lot of really great people behind the scenes. Just like you said, I get a chance to work with Jerry Lynn, and Scotty Garland, Scotty Tuhati. I mean, those guys are, when we're all three guys, look at each other sometimes. I'm like, man, we get a chance to do this at this point in our lives, as coaching younger kids. And my experience personally has been that everyone I've seen to work with, I mean, they all seem to be very, very open to ideas and suggestions. And overall, I think it's a positive thing for the pro wrestling world. And I know there's critiques and criticisms about certain things. And when you're doing live TV and, we're writing, at least 4 hours of live TV a week, you guys know. I mean, it's just a challenge. It's a challenge. Yeah. And sometimes you get it spot on. Sometimes you kind of go, well, okay, that didn't play out like we thought it would, but we'll go back and adjust and, we'll redirect, and try to go a different way with that, So overall, I love it. I couldn't ask for a better. I was back teaching high school special ed, and then, I had reached out to a couple of people I knew, within the company, and basically just was curious. Hey, if there's ever an opening, I certainly would love to be considered. And it took about a year for it to really all come to pass, and they ended up offering me a position right as school was ending this past year in June, and so it was a great time to come on board. And man, I tell you, it's been a very good experience for me so far.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, that's good to hear, man.
That's cool, man. I was going to ask you, actually, is Magnum TA working for you all too?
I don't think so. I don't think he's there for sure, but I mean, they may have done something with him, for a deal to do a certain number of appearances, maybe, or something.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I certainly would, man. I wish he was, because I'd still pick his brain every time I saw him.
Hey, what should I do? Oh, wait, I need to help this guy. I'm sorry, not my match. I'm talking about. Well, no. Speaking of that era of Crockett, I love. That's my bread and butter. That's what I was born with. In Mid-Atlantic, I'm a Mid-Atlantic kid, but the question I was going to talk to you about is that series of matches where you actually got to work the Great Muta, kind of before. Yeah. It all happened for you, but talk about that. I would love to hear you and Muta, man. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I have a great saying that one of my college coaches gave me, and everybody knows the one about it's not what you know, it's who you know. But my college coach used to put another part to that. He used to always say, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who's willing to say they know you. Who's willing to put their name out there for you? Their reputation on the line to give you an opportunity. And ironically, that's what Tommy Rich did for me when I was working with him at Peach State Wrestling. I broke in April of '87. This was going into the summer of '89, and I was finishing teaching school in June. So I had basically those 3 months off and I was in Georgia. So in Georgia, the teachers get paid during the summer. And then, so I had that coming in. I had insurance. And so he was like, hey, would you like to do some of the TV, it had just become WCW, I think. And, inside I was terrified, but I'm like, well, I can't say no to this, So he got me. Tommy went to bat for me, and this was barely 2 years into the business, and he got me booked on. At first, was a Sunday night house show in Albany, Georgia, and I was wrestling. I was going to the locker room, and there's all these guys that I see on TV every week, and I was matched up with Butch Reed, and he was very, very gracious. Yeah, I can imagine, and he was at the height of his career. He looked like $1 million, and so I had a great match with him. He really took care of me and hit his big shoulder off the top. And I was certain I was going to be, dead after that. But I got a chance to see what it was like to work with a pro at that level who was that big and that intimidating and see how well he worked with someone and made him look great and protected him, and so everything went good that night. And so they asked me to come to TV a few days later, and it was center stage, so I think it was maybe that Wednesday, I'm thinking, back then. And but anyway, so I get to center stage. I've never been on anything at that level. Never at this point in my career. So I'm walking around there just trying to, be a good hand, stay out of the way, not speak unless somebody speaks to me, and and then I believe it was Gene Anderson who eventually comes up and says, like, hey, Kim, we got you a match, and you're gonna be working with Muta, and Gary Hart will get with you on what to do. So already here, all right, I got Gene Anderson talking to me, and I know I'm gonna be working with Muta and Gary Hart, who I grew up, just watching and just being, so entertained by him. And
me too.
Long story short, I ended up working, and I'm in center stage, which is terrifying to me because like I said, I'm from South Georgia, and I've hardly ever been to Atlanta that many times in my life. But so I end up where I'm wrestling Muta. Gary Hart's in his corner. The ring announcer was a guy named Rhubarb Jones, very famous country DJ there in Atlanta. Tommy Young is refereeing, and which is legendary NWA rep. Everybody of that era knows. And then Jim Ross and Michael Hayes on commentary. That's what I'm walking into, my first TV match ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the famers.
I was terrified, and, but you know what? I mean, we went out there, but the thing was too is that Tommy had kind of let them know that because of my martial arts background, like I could bump off of kicks and things like that. Which you got to realize in '89, not a lot of people did that. Most people didn't. Even when I came in '96, people didn't want, they didn't want kicks coming at their head. That wasn't a thing that was in the know then. Yeah. So I was able to take some of it, and we ended up having what I considered a really good match, which is, on all accounts, just because I survived it. But everything went well. Gary Hart was really happy apparently, and the word I always got was that he basically said, like, look, feel free to put that kid with us anytime you want. I mean, he seems to be able to work good with Muta. So they booked me a lot that summer working on the Great American Bash tour, and I think I worked, at least 2 more times on TV, I think, with Muta, at least 2 more. And there were a couple, house show ones and stuff like that. But, I got to work with literally everybody that summer, and
Muta was one of my favorites as a kid, man. Yeah. God, he was awesome, man.
Yeah,
when I was a teenager, man. Can you imagine? Check this out, right? Can you imagine the '80s Muta? Let's just take Glacier into the '80s versus Muta. How cool would that have been?
I tell you what, I would have loved it, man. I really would have loved it. It would have been awesome because I think a lot of people don't realize either is Muta's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about my height, and he was a solid, I would say, solid 225, maybe 230. I mean, he was bigger than I thought he was when I first met him. And, he moved so, if you deposited Muta, a young Muta into today's world, he'd still dominate.
Oh yeah.
I firmly believe that. He was totally that good.
And then his elbow, man, and I always say, like, The Rock, the people's elbow is one of the most over moves in the world. Not going to take nothing from that, but he is doing it like Muta did it, but his looks like shit in my opinion. But it's over. Don't get me wrong. But fucking Muta, man, the way he threw that elbow made it look awesome. And I usually hate that kind of elbow, the one off to the side. I usually like the one where you armpit him across the chest, But Muta's elbow was something else, man.
I think it's a perfect example of what I tell young wrestlers all the time is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just find a move or two that you like to do. Just find a way to make it your own. Just make it your own. And that's what he really did with that. He just took an elbow drop and made it his own. Which is very cool.
Yeah,
100%.
It was a huge thrill to work with.
I bet, man. I bet. I'm jelly.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
Are you done with the cold? Well, on Saturday, March 29th, we've got something to warm you up. It's Glory Days Grapplecon 2 at the Residence in Tampa Suncoast in Lutz, Florida. This all-day event will be a WCW reunion and feature the stars you remember, such as Double A Arn Anderson, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff, Ming, Dirty Dutch Mantel, Colonel Robert Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, and much, much more. There will be over a dozen stars in attendance. Make sure to head on over to Tickettree.com to get your tickets for Glory Days Grapplecon 2.
So I didn't know you were in so many daggum movies, man.
You know what? I do say this very proudly. I've kind of quietly built a good resume.
Man.
Seriously.
But it's it's performing. And I've loved to perform since I was a kid, which is I really feel like what steered me towards wrestling, and my mom did some theater when my brother and I were kids. That's really where I felt like I got the bug. I was watching my mom, do theater, and I was like, man, wow, you see your mom kind of transform into these characters, I always tell my mom, like, Mom, I blame you for being a performer and getting into wrestling. But
Jimmy's wife thinks I'm a superstar because I've been in. I was on Joe Kenta's show. What was the name of it? Oh yeah, Homicide Hunter.
Hunter.
I had I had a speaking role as a bouncer for about a minute maybe, but Jimmy's wife thinks I'm a superstar because
and that's why. And that's how I can do the podcast. It's nothing to do with wrestling.
Right.
Talking true crime over here.
So tell the people about the Unbreakable Bunch.
Yeah. Well, man, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for letting me come on and just talk about wrestling, but mainly talk about the film, because it is literally just such a passion project for me and my producing partner, Burning Love Luther Biggs, who Wolfie, I don't know if Luther, he went through Memphis there for a while.
I remember now that you say that, because I kept when I was watching the movie, I was like, I know this dude, but I can't think of who he is. And now when you said Memphis, okay, now that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, he managed. I remember when Kane was there, he was Doomsday. He managed him as Doomsday, and then. Managed a couple other people there. I mean, so he had a good run there before he and I actually met, right beforehand. But yeah, he came up with this idea. We met at the power plant back around '96, and this is an idea he came up with years ago, and it was basically, we both love the ensemble cast movies of like the '60s and '70s, like the Magnificent Seven, the Wild Bunch. The 30 like that.
Ocean's 11.
Stallone's really redone that with the Expendables, here over the last.
Totally.
We as the first Expendables came out, we were thinking like, and that was ironically, man, that was like 2010, and so he was like, what if we could do a story, that was a good story where you had an ensemble cast of wrestlers in the movie, that could really celebrated that, and so. That was the seed that got planted, and then later we would talk to people in the industry and we're like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And eventually somebody said, your first step is to get a script written, because until you get a script written, nobody's going to take you serious, and really it's just an idea that you guys are throwing around.
Right.
So we talked to a good friend of ours, John Waterhouse, who's a very good writer, and he wrote the original screenplay for it, and as most movie scripts go, there was a lot of tweaking to the story, from what where it started and where it finished up. But we did very much keep the essence of what we started with. One of the things we had to learn is we had to cut out a few characters, because when we started, we had about a dozen characters. We can't, in an hour and a half movie, we can't give everybody their moment there if we got people in here, as part of the group. So we ended up cutting it down to 6. And the movie itself is, I always say it's a cross between The Magnificent Seven meets John Carpenter's They Live, with Roddy Piper, And so it's really, there's a new genre of films that are called retro sci-fi. We've kind of fallen into that and I say what that really means is, at least to us, is we wanted to make a movie that one was a love letter to wrestling, and I can get a little bit deeper in that here in just a second. But as far as the movie itself, we wanted to make a movie that that was kind of an homage to those 80s kind of direct-to-video sci-fi action films, you know?
Yes.
That, and because we had a limited budget. We had a good budget, but we had a limited budget. We didn't have any studio budget. And so we just decided, let's lean into that a little bit, And so the story is told as if it's during a time when there's, maybe in the 80s or something like that. So there's no modern technology in the movie. There's no cell phones or flat screen TVs or stuff like that, which is a huge challenge to just film that, but also write a story that doesn't have that in there, So it's called the Unbreakable Bunch. And, we made it that because it's a group of veteran wrestlers who come back together. My character, Jock Holiday, kind of gathers everybody back. And we come together to help a friend in need who we need to raise a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time. And it's like, the old ticking clock thing is like, we got to get this by this. And so we go on the road and we all agree to work for this promoter we all swore we'd never work for again. We go on the road and actually, we had some great actors in the film. And actually, anyone who's fans of The Walking Dead, or listeners of your show, will recognize the guy who plays, his name's Nicodemus Quarles in the movie, which is a pretty cool name. But it's Adam Minarovich, who he played the character of Carol on Walking Dead. She was in like all 14 seasons. He played Carol's abusive husband in the first 2 seasons. And, eventually the zombies get him and stuff. But he's a great comedic actor, and our movie, he gets to show some of that, his comedic chops, a little bit. And because even though there's a good bit of humor in the movie, it's all played very straight. It's not played like campy, cheesy humor. And so we go on. So the audience gets to see 2 parallel stories from the very beginning. They see this small Florida town where this alien presence has started to take over, and then here are these guys who are come back together to go on this tour. And eventually, what happens is we stop off in that town on a day off, and there's a festival going on in the town, and we end up in this big old friendly fight at the festival and get thrown in jail. And then eventually we find out what's going on, and then we stand with the town to help take back the town. And it's a really, really fun movie. We really challenged ourselves to make a movie that celebrates everything that's good about pro wrestling. And it's made for people who love wrestling like we all do, Right. So we don't really expose wrestling in the movie. We don't use a lot of insider terms. It's really about the camaraderie, the friendship, and loyalty that gets developed. When you travel along with guys and girls that love it like you do. Everybody loves it the same way. Yeah, and that's the story. It really is the story. Because nobody, there's just Luther really came up with the idea like, man, we need to make a movie that shows the really good side of wrestling, like when all those car rides and stuff, when you become friends with people and you start developing these almost like family like bonds, with people, and you guys like you have your wrestling family on the road, you got your real family at home, and so that's the side that we felt like a story that was never told. We wanted to tell that story, and we felt like Hollywood, even if they did try to tell it, wouldn't get it right. And we were bound and determined we were going to get it right. And I think we really did. And so we're really proud of it. It's our first film, and we hope to do more.
Where did you do most of the filming at?
We shot pretty much almost all of the film in Central Florida here. And I'm in Orlando, but there's a town right outside of Orlando called Sanford, Florida. Has a really, really cool historic district. And we shot a lot of the movie in that historic district, once again, to kind of give it a little bit of a timeless look and feel, and the town turned out, they were so gracious to help. From the permitting office to the police force to, just the locals that would show up to be extras in the scenes. It was, this was a huge, huge undertaking to pull off. And just the list of guys that we got to commit to the film. It's a who's who among pro wrestlers in this movie, man.
I know.
There was not enough of Gangrel David Heath in it.
Well, you know what? I will. I'll tell you why. Because Luther and I both love Dave, but Dave, he actually, when the movie was written, and we were trying to find a way a role for Dave because we wanted him in there, and we couldn't figure out a role to where we could put a role that would really match with his schedule, because every weekend he's wrestling somewhere, and so we knew, okay, so how can we get maximum bang for our buck with Dave? And so we wrote him into the huge festival scene, the big fight scene, is that we were like, okay, we can get him in this scene, he can do all of his good stuff, he can be Gangrel, throw people around and beat us up. And so, but just a testament. I mean, he's one of the hardest working guys in our business. And,
Absolutely.
Just a testament to his work ethic is, one, he came in and he gave us everything and then some, that we asked and needed of him. And then we were all staying at an extended stay hotel there, and we had even gotten a room, and he basically said graciously, "Hey guys, I don't need the room because we can only film until it got dark, obviously, and we were filming in the fall, so it was like 6 o'clock, it'd be dark." So he jumped back in the car as soon as we wrapped filming. He drove back to South Florida and coached his wrestling class that night.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and Dave Lees, though, man.
Who else?
Find a lot of people like him.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, I love Dave, man. I've known him for a long time. Good guy. Who, if I can ask, because you said people got cut. Who ended up getting cut that was going to be in it?
Well, you know what? It wasn't so much some people that we had cast. It was just characters that we had to cut out.
Gotcha.
But I will say this. I mean, I would have really loved it, because I did have a conversation a few years back with Al Snow. I had seen Al in the role of one of the characters, and then let's see who else. Well, there was one. Believe it or not, you said you saw the movie?
Yeah.
Yes. We both did.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the bar scene with Dallas, when we're in the bar scene, Dallas comes up, starts talking to me. That was originally written where it was going to be. It was called Bullet's Bar, and the guy behind the bar was going to be Bob Armstrong playing the Bullet and being the owner of the bar. And there was originally a whole scene where he came up and said hello to us and blah blah blah. And as we were, you had to keep trimming and going. Okay, we got to get this to a 90-minute film. It was certain scenes and certain characters had to get cut, and I hated that more than anything, to cut the Bullet's character out, because I so much wanted him in there. But it was one of those things. I remember Luther and I, when we sat down at the beginning, one of the promises we made to ourselves was, this is not a vanity project. We got to make this movie as if we have no emotional connection to it. And so if something has to be cut for the better of it's got to be cut. And honestly, like even in that bar scene, there's a big part of that scene where Luther was in there. It's cut out. About 2 minutes of what Dallas and I say in the scene is kind of cut out, because we just had to get it down to one of the rules that you learn when you produce a film is, if it doesn't move the story along, it's got to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And even some of the best stuff that we shot, we felt like didn't make it into the final cut just because it was good. But you ask yourself, okay, does it move the story along? And if it doesn't move the story along, it might seem entertaining to us, but for people who are just watching the movie and they got nothing else invested but just to be entertained, it might not work for them. So you just got to make sure everything moves the story along. And so we were very, very conscious of that, and even made a final cut right before we sent it to distribution, where we cut out about 6.5 minutes of stuff that, a lot of really good stuff, but it actually did tighten up the movie some, and it made it even better. So, but yeah, I mean, just as far as the guys that we got for this film, I mean, we got, of course, King Haku, who
love it.
Everybody knows, and of course, I had one of the lead roles. Ernest the Cat Miller, who is my tag team partner and still one of my best friends to this day. He's amazing in this film. He's very much a Jim Brown type character.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of he brought the whole cowboy, persona to that. That wasn't even really written into the script, but I remember him coming up to me and he was like, Glacier, he's like, how about if I wear like this cut off Western shirt with this cowboy hat and these black jeans and boots? And I was like, yeah, man. I said, did you come up with that? And he said, man, I've been wanting to be a cowboy ever since I was 5 years old. All right. And he showed me this picture of when he was dressed. He was dressed as a cowboy when he was like 5, and he was like, I want to look like this. I was like, bring it, man. Let's do it. It works.
Yeah.
And then, and then the living legend, Larry Zybysko, who
I know.
It's funny. If you guys, I don't know if you guys got this from watching Larry, but Luther and I both have had several people. Someone just told me this over the weekend that they felt like when they were watching Larry in the movie, that's kind of like an old school Hollywood legend actor, He
felt like he could have been in Goodfellas. He could have been in Goodfellas or Casino, or he has that because he's a Pittsburgh guy, right? Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah. So working class, you could just tell. But you're right. He could have actually been a movie star. I highly believe that.
Well, here's the story that he told us, which I thought was amazing. Is back when he was at the height of his run, he actually was approached by the people that were making the movie The Hills Have Eyes, which I think was what's his name, the real famous horror director. But anyway, and he passed on it because, well, I guess whatever money offered him was good money, but it wasn't anywhere close to what he was making, week to week, month to month wrestling. And, back then, if you didn't wrestle, you didn't make money. So he basically, politely declined it. And he even told us, that's why he said he just wants so much to get this right, because he really wishes he would have taken that role at that time, because he enjoys doing acting and he's good at it. And so this was really, I think, a little bit of a kind of a second chance for him to try to show people he can really do that. And I think he did amazing, And,
dude.
And he got, we had, Dallas came on board and shot that great scene for us. And then, of course, Gangrel, like you said, and Hall of Famer, Stan the Lariat Hansen.
I know. I wish he could have said Tiny Wangers one time in it. But
yeah, I mean,
well, if it ain't the Teeny Wangers.
I know that wouldn't have fit the script. I get it, but
well, and I can tell you guys this without giving it away to anybody else. Who hopefully a lot of people go watch the movie. But obviously, you guys know how things play out with Stan's character in the movie. Well,
right.
Originally, it wasn't written that way, and actually, Stan came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I'd be totally fine if you wrote my character, to do this," and which is what ends up, in the movie. And I said, "Wow, really?" He was like, "Yeah, I'd be fine with it." And so it was his idea, really, to do that.
Hey, but, hold on just a second, Ray. Did you just do an amazing Stan Hansen impersonation right there?
I tried.
Because I'm giving you props, man. Wow.
Thank you, man. And this is where I say, just building relationships over the years, it really, really paid off. Because I met Stan, because I worked as kind of like just I don't know if you call it a featured extra or whatever in No Holds Barred, which is where I met Stan. And and we've been friends all these years. And he always was like, hey, if you ever do a movie, if you got a role for me, I'd love it. And so when we had all this finally worked out, I called him and I said, Stan, this is all set. I said, here's what we can do for you. And it wasn't a lot of money. I mean, it was, we did do a union film, but it still was not a lot of money. Right. And I said, we can fly you in, we can put you up the extended stay hotel. And, and he, before I could even finish, he was like, Ray, I'm in. Count me in. And so, and then, and he was here for like a week, and I didn't realize that him and Tonga had not seen each other in years and how great of friends they were. So there was a lot of great, just added benefits that came from gathering everybody together that we didn't realize would happen. And it's just bringing because I'm still connected to QT and to Cody with the wrestling school in Atlanta, the Nightmare Factory. Actually, before Cody had even come on board, it was QT and I who had started it. And a lot of the kids that came through our camp were in the film. And Anna Jay, who does, she's one of the rising stars with AEW. She played the ring announcer in one part of the movie. And so it was right before she signed with AEW. But yeah, it's but with all these guys brought together, once again, just the common thread of the movie is, I think, and maybe, I'd love to get your guys' opinion on it, is, I've heard, we've gotten some good feedback where people say, you can see you guys, you see like you guys are really having a good time. And we had a blast making this.
Definitely.
It was hard work, but I feel like the camaraderie was there, some in real life, but the characters, we tried to blend the characters with their personalities to make it, to make that come across, and hopefully it did.
Right. Oh yeah.
I enjoyed it, man. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun movie. It wasn't too serious where it was like, oh, come on. Right, but you know what I mean? It was a fun movie. And while you were sitting there talking and talking about some of the people that was in it, I'm thinking, man, who'd have been great? That's right there in Tampa is Dan Spivey, man. He looks more intimidating these days than he did in his prime, dude.
There's so many people that we've tried to find a way. Lutz and I both wanted to get Ronnie Garvin. Somehow get him a little cameo, because man, he still looks great.
He looks great. We love him.
That's really our incentive. It's like we got to make at least one more, because there's a lot of people that we still like to be able to get it. And just to give people just the wrestling world. Give them something that maybe will outlive all of us.
Right.
A film that hopefully will be around for a long time, and maybe our grandkids get to enjoy it. Or whatever. And like in the scene in the movie where I go to recruit Tonga, and early in the movie, there's a scene where it's like his grandson and his daughter.
I know.
That's his real grandson and his real daughter in the movie, and his grandson now is about 14, and he's a lot bigger than he is in our movie. I tell, but anybody that knows Tonga knows. I mean, he's a very, very big on family, but he's a very, very emotional guy.
Right.
And they're very much wears his heart on his sleeve, and every time we get to talking about it, I tell him, I say, hey, Tonga, I said the great thing about the movie is the grandson's name's Siosi. I said, Chelsea is going to always be 8 years old in the movie,
Yeah.
Tear out every time I say
oh,
it.
Man. Yeah, because it showed a tender side of Haku, man, and you don't always think of that, So.
Right. And that was a big, big thing that we wanted to do, is to show the human side of the wrestlers. That the audience, the wrestling world doesn't get to see a lot. And unfortunately, when they do get to see it, it's usually the controversial or dark side.
Right.
And we just was like, man, I mean, there's enough of that out there, and I certainly understand it has its place. But I mean, there's a lot of really, most of the memories that we all have from wrestling are good memories, And we just felt like there needed to be a movie that really highlighted that, And the action. I mean, we have. We were shooting a lot of the wrestling around right before and after the pandemic. So, a lot of times we weren't able to get the big houses that we wanted. But I tell you what, man, Kahagas came through for us huge. Some of the best footage I think we have in the wrestling we filmed one of his shows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I liked when Tonga was eating them all up in the ring, man.
And which, I mean, that's about as spot on as it gets.
Pretty accurate. Yeah.
And so you said that there was going to be, more than likely, you're going to do a part 2. And before you ask, I'll do it, Ray. I'll do it.
Well, I can tell you this. We, as you guys know, this really doesn't give away anything, but we left the end of the movie in a way to where we could certainly open to doing another one. And, we signed our distribution deal with a company called Grapplecon Ventures, who's solid independent film distribution company. And so we won't get the first quarter numbers till probably about March, but we're hoping if the numbers, are good. We have one sole investor who's very dedicated to the project. And, if we can make the numbers make sense, then he's all about us maybe doing at least one more, maybe more than that. And so to anyone out there who's considering renting or buying the movie, please, if you can, purchase it, because it's a few dollars more and you get to have it forever. But
exactly,
we'll take that too. But you can go to just the unbreakablebunchmovie.com. That's our website. It's the unbreakablebunchmovie.com, and that's Robert McLaren, who is Diamond Dallas Page's webmaster. He did the website for us. Basically, a gift to the project, which is just amazing because his services are not.
He's top notch
within our budget.
Right.
But a lot of people did that to help us, but all the streaming services, all of the cable services where you can find the film, it's all right there at the top of our website on the unbreakablebunchmovie.com.
Yeah, and your target audience, man. I mean, you're talking about the numbers. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, I feel like you're going to go watch it. I mean, I really hope that my listeners do, for sure.
Seriously.
Yeah, if y'all don't listen to me no more. No, I'm just kidding. No, but for real, I mean, a wrestling fan, I feel like, that knows you guys is going to watch it just because. It may not be their normal cup of tea, but if they like wrestling, I feel like they're just going to watch it just because you guys are in it,
I hope so. I really do, because we made this for the fans, for the people who love wrestling the way we do it.
And now a word from our sponsor.
The Portland Wrestling Expo will take place on Saturday, February 22nd at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport. The PWE will be a celebration of the unique past and present of the Pacific Northwest area. It's presented by Captain's Corner. Announced guests include the Grappler, Mean Mike Miller, Top Gun, Ricky Santana, Moondog Moretti, John Nord, and C.W. Bergstrom. There will even be a Portland Wrestling History Q&A. In addition, there'll be international guests such as Hall of Famers Eric Bischoff, Rikishi, crowd favorites like The Boogeyman and Lance Von Erich. Make sure to head on over to pwexpo.com to get your tickets. VIP tickets are already half sold. The Portland Wrestling Expo on Saturday, February 22nd. Be there.
Actually, for anyone who's in that, the Central Florida area or even willing to travel on March 29th, the weekend of March, that Saturday, of course, our good friends, Nick Massey and Barry Rose are putting on a great WCW reunion event, and we're actually screening the movie there.
Awesome.
I'll be there. Nice. Yeah, Tonga will be there, and we'll be there to watch the screening with the fans, and then also do a little quick Q&A about the movie, afterwards. So yeah, if anybody's in the Tampa area or willing to drive over, you'll get to sit and watch the movie with us and get some behind the scenes stories and just a little bit of a breakdown of how we made this thing and why we made it, and we'll get to watch it again. So
that's awesome.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Give them the rundown, Jimmy.
Yeah, one more time, and it's Glory Days Grapplecon 2 with our buddy Captain's Corner. It's Saturday, March 29th, Lutz, Florida. Residence Inn, Tampa, Suncoast Parkway at North Point Village. Like we've had on our previous show, we had NWO Sting. He's going to be there. Haku, Bunkhouse Buck, Robert Fuller, Robert Parker, however you want to call it. It's a WCW extravaganza. Our boy Glacier Ray Lloyd. Talk about the movie. Talk about this amazing character that he got to play in wrestling that will never be forgotten. Talk about how they made it snow inside the building. Talk about anything you want to with this man. But first of all, man, thank you for doing this with us, brother. Seriously.
Oh man, thank you guys so much. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, Luther and I, we always say that, that we made this. And I'll tell you, like this, I really believe this is probably the hardest thing I've ever done is put this movie together because from the time we started first day of filming until we put it out, it came out November 1st. It was about 5 years. And of course, we had the pandemic happen in the middle, but we never gave up on it. There were a lot of times people, I think, thought that we were just, it would never get completed, but we refused to not get it done because, we made a commitment to our investor and we said that, we'll treat this investment like it's our own and we'll get this done and we'll make the very best movie we can. And, we actually, for the love of wrestling and just the power plant that everybody remembers, we named the, our production company Power Plant Legacy Films, which is at the very beginning of the movie, and, it's just, there's a lot of really wrestling related themes to the movie that just, if you love wrestling like we all do, as someone who watches the movie, I think you'll see a lot of that. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in there too that we put for the really serious wrestling fan. And I always say, watch it the first time just to enjoy it, and then go back the second time and see how many of those little Easter eggs you can spot in the movie. Because I worked really hard to put some really good ones in there. So.
Okay. I'm going to go make those. I'm going to do that right now, actually.
Yeah. And once we get off the air, I'll share one with you guys. Once we get off the air.
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good.
Hey, are you going to be, when you're at the GrappleCon, are you going to be in Glacier Gimmick?
I will. Yes.
Cool. Nice. So that's people. If you don't go down there and get a picture with Glacier in his gimmick, I don't know what's wrong with you.
You're missing out.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, and I just all the wrestling fans out there. I mean, seriously, like thankfully all that stuff still fits, and but I always
that's what I was going to say, bro.
That it is exactly the same stuff that I wore, in Monday Nitro and everything. I mean, it's I had 3 masks made, and the one that I go to the appearances now is one of those original 3 masks. The armor is the original armor. I mean, it's everything. It's not a watered down version. Of Glacier. It's the exact same stuff that I wore in WCW, and it's I proudly wear it every time I can because the wrestling business has allowed me to have a very, very full life. And boy, I tell you, I don't know what to do without it. I really don't.
That's awesome, man.
And by the way, just to say this, the guy who made your gear, Andre Freitas, he's worked on a few, small budget movies. I think they're called Black Adam, Avengers, Infinity War, Fast and the Furious. I don't think he's done anything too big, so. Disney.
He's an amazing artist. He really is.
Yeah.
And he was one of, from what I remember, he was one of the first full-fledged special effects studios in Atlanta. When I first moved there, it was like in the early 90s. And so, he's a homegrown talent there. He, as far as I know, he was born and raised there, and he stayed there when he probably could have gone to LA. He's kept his business there. And, but he does amazing work. And we were very fortunate to get him because, I don't think we would have had that look of something that was completely different at that time, without his help. And we were very grateful to have him.
That's awesome, cool, man. That's cool.
Ray, man, I really appreciate you taking this little road trip with us, man.
Thank you, guys.
It's about that time to let you out.
It's getting cold in here.
Yeah, it's getting cold. I got to turn the heat on. But yeah, man, we really do appreciate it, man. And all the listeners, please go check out the movie. And if you're in the Tampa area, go to the Grapplecon, all that good stuff, man. And once again, thank you.
You can get it on Amazon Prime Video, and all the other streaming outlets. But I always say if the easiest way to find it is just go to the unbreakablebunchmovie.com, and Robert put all of our all the streaming services and cable logos right there on our site. All you have to do is click on it; it'll take you right to the site to where you can rent or purchase the film. And please know that if as your listeners there, if you rent or purchase the film, please know that literally every bit of the money we make literally goes back into us being able to do hopefully a second one. And that's the God's honest truth, because we just feel like, if we didn't do this, for any certain amount of money, it'd certainly be nice if, we make a good bit, certainly. But if we do, it will all go back into making another one that will continue to celebrate wrestling the way that we all love to see it celebrated.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
But guys, hey, thank y'all so much, man. Because this movie is our heart and soul, and I can't thank enough for letting me come on and have time to talk about it.
No, we thank you, man. We appreciate it, man. And I'm trying to remember, man. My memory sucks anymore. But were you in WCW in '99, 2000? Because me and Jamie worked there quite a bit. I don't know that I've run into you or not. I can't remember.
Well, and there was a time in there where I was off. One, I injured my knee. I had surgery, so I was off for I don't know, about 6 months or so then. And then there was a time where they weren't using me because all the changes that were going on, and there was a time where they didn't. They were like, we don't have anything for you right now. Even though I was pitching, we were all pitching ideas, but and just during that, I remember when you guys were there, and I think it was just kind of one of those times where we kind of weren't there. Even though we were both under the umbrella of it, we weren't there kind of right there at the same time. Which is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Well, all right, man. We'll let you get back to doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you, Ray.
Well, thank you guys, man. And hey, listen, if you ever if there's ever time that we would have time to bring me back on, by all means, I'd love to.
Yeah, we'd love to,
man. For
anytime, man.
Same here, guys. Same here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, guys.
I can't wait to see part 2, brother. Can't wait to see.
Yes, sir. I'm all for it.
I can't wait to start filming.
Thank you.
All right, see you,
we'll
man.
have you come in and throw Kahagas around.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
Easy. All right.
Okay.
All right, and we will be right back with evidently Ask Wolfie D Anything. We haven't done that in a few weeks, and Jimmy don't want to watch Saturday night's main event, which I did, but anyway, we'll be right back with Ask Wolfie D Anything.
DJ, hit that music. All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie D Anything. And honestly, Wolfie, I never thought it was going to come back, but look like it has. So to be honest, what you said before the little musical interlude by my buddy Tracy from A Gathering of None, they have a new record coming out soon. So check that out soon. We'll make sure and let you know about it. But with that being said, Yes, we have been slacking. Well, let's just say we've been trying to do other segments. And unfortunately, the delay of Saturday night's main event to when we were able to record this has been so much, it's almost a whole new show. So what we did is we brought in some Ask Wolfie questions, and I think you're going to dig them. So let's start with this very first one, if you don't mind. It's Ben Martin 88 from Twitter, and he sent a link, and I sent that to you earlier, and he asked this question. It's PCO, it's Jacques Rougeau. And so the question is, show this to Wolfie and ask him if PG-13 would have made a video / released a single like this, would he have rather it been an original song or do a cover?
Absolutely an original song. That's all I've ever done.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I watched that and I'm like, okay, I mean, the video's kind of cool, but I was like, it's in a different language. I don't even understand what they're saying here. So, yeah, I mean, that was cool. I'd never seen that before. I don't know where it came from, whatever. But, yeah, if it was up to me, man, give me something original.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say that. That was, I mean, you know, because you did start out doing like the remixed version of House of Pain, Jump Around and stuff,
and Hip Hop Hooray.
Right, Hip Hop Hooray. But when you finally got into your own, it was all original after that. So
absolutely,
you know, even an original one with Jim Johnston from WWE, man. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one, Ben. Thank you. That was fun. Appreciate that. It's an interesting little song there. And so the next one is from our good buddy Cause Effect on Instagram, and he asked this question. He says, Wolfie, take 5 current wrestlers and start a promotion with them. Where do you have a home base at? Do you have any money backers? Who's your number 1 draft pick?
Do I have any money backers? Well, fuck, I would hope so.
Of course you do.
I couldn't. I couldn't do this. Yeah, if I ain't got money backers, I couldn't do this. And 5 current wrestlers. Jesus.
It's you, Isaiah, Michelle in the backyard.
Yeah.
You don't have money backers in your skeleton ring.
Oh, my God. 5 current. I mean, okay, so I'm just supposed to take random people here?
Take 5 current wrestlers and start a promotion.
Okay.
Take 6 if you want to. I don't care.
I'll take. Let me think here. I'll take Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I need to have someone to work with her, and I would take Liv.
Liv.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
To work with her. This is probably going to be all WWE because I just don't think. I don't know. I might, man, just because, and I'd slow him down. I'd probably take Ospreay and what's his face, Kenny Omega. I'd probably take them two and just slow it down a little bit. And you know, if it's my company and I've got my backers, they're going to listen to me or they're not going to work for me. So yeah, I'd slow it down just a hair, man. So that's 4. Then 5, just one person to stand out there by themselves and talk. Give me The Rock.
The Rock. Okay. Yeah.
He's the best talker right now. He is, man. He's the final boss, man. He's made himself into that.
Yeah. Plus, there's all that extra stuff he brings with it. That's a genius pick, actually. You know. So, well, cool, man. Yeah. Obviously, we heard that Triple H.
That's kind of a hard question, man. I mean, 5, and then like, you know, you got to do it big time, and I mean, those are the biggest ones. So. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question.
Yeah, I get it. No, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Well, cool. Well, so we have a third question here, and that is from The Raging Bolt on YouTube. And he asks, and he says, he always wondered why TNA wrestling shows were so family friendly, even though they were rated TV-14. He says, in your opinion, Wolfie, which is better in today's climate, an edgier TV-14 product or family friendly?
I think wrestling has always been edgy. I don't like family-friendly wrestling. I think there needs to be blood. I think people need to cuss. I think there needs to be, violence, man. I mean, that's just what wrestling is. So
yeah. And you think that today's, fan is they're mature enough to understand why that should be there?
I don't want to say that because there's many fans that and just the whole society, man. You got man, unfortunately, you got two sides right now. You got people that are fucking weirdos and people that are on my side.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm sorry to say that, but it's just the way it is. I'm not butt hurt by a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are, but I'm just, and I said but right there. Yeah, man, wrestling has just always been based on violence and, red equals green, and that means blood equals money, and just things like that, man. I think it needs to be over the top. That's wrestling. That's what it is.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. Couldn't agree more, actually. I do think that I think back when I was a kid, man, it was nice that we had, NWA, and obviously you had Memphis too, which had its own element of family friendly and adult content. You know what I mean? But when it comes to it, you had the NWA and Crockett, which was more of the adult content, even though it wasn't like cussing and stuff, you would still see a lot of blood and real life deal versus the WWE cartoon stuff. So I do like that there's sometimes both, but because I do want more fans to happen, and sometimes parents, I know my brother doesn't let his 7-year-old kid watch, AEW, you know what I mean? Because they're very openly cursing and stuff all the time. But with WWE, he feels comfortable because there's some cussing, but it's not anything like,
Well, what about the Attitude Era? There was titties everywhere.
I know that, but
titties and butts, and
I know, and we watched it all and loved it all. But here's the thing: I guess his 7-year-old wasn't alive then, so
but that's just wrestling. I don't know,
right?
And like I said, back in the day, what got ECW over? It was the fucking blood and the big bumps and stuff you probably don't want your kids looking at, but who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's all whoever.
It's what got me into it, and look how fucked up I am now.
So there's your argument. I love it. Let's just go with that.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, that is all I got.
The book's coming out. Read the book.
Yeah, the book's coming out. Yeah. So we'll see what comes of what you put in that book. I'm very interested to hear about.
Yeah. So. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, there's shit I'm going to my grave with, but then there's also stuff that I want to be out there. I want to be out there. So yeah, what do I put in? What do I hold back from? That type of thing.
How do you, let me ask you a quick question then. What do you have a title for it yet?
I don't have a title yet.
Okay.
I'm open to suggestions from the fans, from you. And another thing is the cover, because they're like, we know you draw. You want to draw something. I hate drawing me. I fucking hate drawing me. So I've talked to my buddy Stuart, who's a great artist, and I'm like, man, will you do this? And we're kind of he kind of wants to, he kind of don't want to, and I'm not really sure why he kind of don't want to. I'm not sure about that. So I'm kind of open to what the cover should be, and I'm open to the title. So.
Is that your childhood friend, Stuart?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that would be incredible if he would.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. Because I'm sure he'll have a good representation in that. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, come on, Stu, do it, bro. But, yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get that figured out, and hopefully you'll get a good title.
We got time.
Yeah,
we're talking about a late summer, early fall release. But in the contract, we do need to have everything together by the end of May. So
yeah.
Still got time.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. And listeners out there in listener land, if y'all have something, let him know, man. Might be something that, he digs and wants to go with,
Yeah.
So, you never know. Sure. Well, I said I was all done, but I have one more question, Wolfie D. I would like to hear your thoughts on who's going to win the Royal Rumble.
So. I have no fucking clue, man. Whoever they want to win it. I mean, seriously, I don't know, man. I mean, there's so many directions you could go. And honestly, unless you're in the office, you don't know. And, I mean, they put so much stuff out there as far as their angles. They've got it all intertwined. You know what I'm saying? So who could win means this to that angle. And, yeah, so it's cool. It's cool. They're doing a great job.
I predict Punk. That's who I'm saying, but we'll go with that. So, yeah, we'll see. Roman Reigns is in it, though, so it's hard to tell, but anyway, I think it'll be cool. We'll talk about it next week, and we'll see what everybody else thought, too. So, but
right on. Tune in. Go chill yourself out after the glacier freeze, man.
Still live and in color on the Wolfie D. We got a cap for your dome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at Warren Wolf 13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
Yeah. PG-13 Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame Class of 2024. Give it up. Spaceman Jones with the beat. Here we go. The 90s was ours, and we did it with pride. 15-time tag champs, what a hell of a ride. Rock and roll couldn't beat us. No Tommy and Doug. Not Smothers, dirty white boy who called themselves thugs. T is for terrible. H is for hell. Ha! PG both been locked up in county jail. The kid was real, and we were immature punks. Buddy Wayne couldn't stand us because we didn't wear trunks. We did it our way, in and out of the ring. Bought a real rap swagger to the Memphis thing. You can hate it, you can love it. We just did our thing. Still true to the game. Now we Hall of Fame. PG-13. Put respect on our name. Yeah.
This has been a James Rock Street production.